哦，然后到时候 turn on 的长按那个。好，
要怎么弄啊？
待会教你一下。
哎，你好。Yeah. Do you know how to do that?
YouTube.
No. They have to click on this one.
那个
You ask Daryl.
so that you will be stabilized.
Oh, stabilize.
Oh, okay, cool. And
Can we have a look of the? Oh, this is how the screen looks.
Okay, fixed.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Oh, nice. 好cool.
那个 camera 已经在弄了吗？
应该已经 live 了啊。
OK， 那
声音它会吸收进来。
可是我要知道他拍的什么东西啊？
对啊，我也不知道为什么没有。我去，要么去 channel 上。
它实际上是不存在我的，直接就上 YouTube 了。
它直接 streaming 上了。
OK。
它应该是一个 Zoom 的那个。
那最少我想看一下我到底有没有拍到东西。
对，我也不知道哎。 这个手机我没有用。
我们最少知道对的。
对，应该就是这样，对。You're right。要这样转过去。
这个吧，固定在这边了吧？
啊，好。
然后就转回去，你刚那个。
对，然后这个它为什么这不能这样转？
你可以去 live 看一下现在拍的。
我到电脑看一下。
对。你这个不会
是手机
没电吧？
关键是电，我要找个这个。
What's that to you know? Sorry, I can't. Try out again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my like hey.
That's a super.
，Austin, nice to meet you. Happy Saturday. It's my daughter. I don't know why my
直播哈，它这个是我看我的手对话没电。
对呀，那有那个充电宝。他是怕手机直播。我有手机线，USB 的。
先也most small houses like thousand square.
Let's see, Zoom.
With respect, everyone, thank you for coming. We're going to kick off and start. We have a packed agenda this morning. Good morning, distinguished guests, members, board, friends, partners, volunteers. Welcome to 2022 NECINA Tech Conference and Annual Meeting. It has been almost 3 years since we had our last in-person conference, and certainly it has been an unprecedented achievement. This morning, when I checked the weather report, it indicates that this weekend, the high will go around 89 days. I think someone up in the sky is excited for this first in-person conference in 3 years. Today's meeting will be broken into 2 parts. The first part is our technology conference. During this conference, you'll have an opportunity to hear NECINA co-founder Qian Wu. And you will also hear our keynote speaker, Gina, share her insights in 3D technology, followed by 2 separate panel discussions. Then we will break for lunch. The lunch will be available outside of this room, and you can grab your lunch. And please return to the room when we will continue to the next part, which is our annual meeting. We will wrap up at 1:40 p.m. this afternoon. 2 years is a long and brief period in an individual's life. For someone, this is their entire graduate school experience, and half of their college life. After all things surrounding us are not getting settled, and some things are remaining unsettled. We had many monument moments together during the pandemic, and then the world is ready to be transformed into a new normal. The pandemic has dramatically increased the speed for companies have accelerated and then digitalized for their customer interaction and supply chain interactions. One thing will continue to evolve is innovation. To stay competitive in this new business and economic environment requires new strategies and practices. Today, we are fortunate to have NECINA's co-founder, Chen Wu, to share his.
A highly regarded industry leader and an extremely successful series entrepreneur. This slide only lists a small portion of his many accomplishments. The list is way too long. Please watch the following video with me for his remarks.
Hi, my name is Chen Wu. It's a great honor to be invited to give an opening remark at NECINA's annual meeting. Before I get going, I want to just thank the board, in particular now, for providing the leadership that we all, and the management team of NECINA for the wonderful year in the past 12 months. And I look forward to a great year coming up. Certainly, this year is an interesting time. There's a lot of turbulence in the world, economically, politically, in whatever context. But I think that's persistent. Is that technology is organization continue on. And there's no better time then right now to focus on innovation. Because it was really innovation is done at a time when the economy actually recently launched. As I look into the different technology landscape, as part of this presentation, it will be very inspirational to look at what's happening in the world. In the fintech space, where we have seen a lot of digital currency and NFT type innovation. What's really interesting is that it's now coming back to recognize that it's important to focus on a better infrastructure for fintech, especially at a layer 1 level, where the legislation will paramount importance, where scalability will paramount importance. And then the software will be all paramount importance. And it's interesting where there's the fintech the technology that we all about to make it scalable. So it's a different factor to the foundation. This is a foundation. Solid enough, essentially solid enough to support the next generation and innovation. If you look at health, especially from a smart healthcare perspective, there's clearly a lot of innovation in terms of remote healthcare, virtual clinic services. But one area that's extremely exciting, which I have noted, is actually precision medicine. Where precision medicine combines the technology of biology and AI together, really for the first time creating medicine that can be tailored based on our individual orientations from a DNA perspective. If you look at even the quantum computing era and arena, you probably noticed that quantum computer is progressed quite a bit in the past few years. To the level that it can scale up to a very high level in terms of qubits. What's even more interesting, I think, is the ability to find practical use of quantum. When areas of particular interest and particular attention to our practical applications is in the area of quantum sensing. And where the idea of quantum sensing is the ability to measure things at a subatomic level for the general gravity or for other subatomic forces that otherwise could not be measurable, and that has effect on a number of things, especially from the combination of quantum sensing and low Earth orbit satellite perspective. And the combination could be very, very interesting. For example, you use the satellite as a foundation for imaging from the space. You could also use it for GPS guidance, as we all know. But GPS could be disrupted during wartime. And so there's now a technology that's emerging that is how to use quantum sensing to continue GPS navigation in the case where GPS system is denied. And so this is an example of how quantum and low Earth orbit satellites are being combined together to create the next generation of innovations. Even in the basic area of consumer marketing or consumer products, there's a lot of technology that are happening. They'll move toward making the consumer product low power, energy efficient, and smaller in size. And so in a particular concern, there's a lot of technology that are in the smart sensing technology area that it try to address exactly what I just said. Make them small, make them reliable, make them insertable and disappear from our eyes, but be able to provide all the cognitive functions that we otherwise don't know. And so that's extremely exciting. And obviously, I'm just citing some examples as a way to encourage everybody to continue our good tradition of continue to focus on our organization to be an innovation-centric organization. That we lead and we think ahead and we help others. Thank you.
Amazing remark, and I definitely have made some notes, and it will help me to stay focused on learning new technologies in the future. With that, I'm going to introduce Shuan Chen, prominent IT attorney and trained physicist, to kick off our technology conference part and then introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of NECINA, once again, I welcome you come to the conference in person. This is a great morning, Saturday. And so before we start, let me try to introduce myself. My name is Shuan Chen. Some people have trouble pronouncing my first name. So often I find a way to teach you guys how to pronounce my name easier. It's just simply Shine and Ye. So Xuan Ye, okay? Now you know how to pronounce my name. All right. So first of all, thanks Jean for committed to coming. Before I start with everything, I just want to make a quick announcement. Jean, unfortunately, injured her knee like a few weeks ago, and yet she still take the trouble of coming over in person. So let's give her a first round of applause. Jean is a founder and CEO of NECINA Studios LLC. Over the years, she and her co-worker has been focused on novel, innovative projects for clients and partners around the globe. NECINA's team helps clients to build, design, and manufacture faster, cheaper, lighter, and greener. Jean and her team, quickly become very well known in the knowledge and highly regarded knowledge experts and thought leaders in the 3D printing space, especially 3D printing house. So because she came in as a client, I had the privilege and opportunity to look over what she has developed. You guys will enjoy the kind of nice work she has done over the years. She's going to share with you. And her true passion is to build business, to streamline mass customization with scalability. The tagline for today is age of mass customization. I helped Jane to get a trademark. So basically, Luxmia is creating smart solutions that allow businesses to build better, cheaper, and faster products using generative design and 3D printing technologies. Jean is a graduate of University of Toronto. She got a degree in math, mathematics, statistics, and actuarial science. Without further ado, let's welcome Jean.
Hello, everyone. Give me a second to settle up. Before I start the presentation, I brought some samples of the past work. Feel free to come and take a look in the break. This is the 3D printed photon steel Voronoi structure, and this is the concrete 3D printed panel for fabric work. Hi everyone, I'm Jin Yang, and it's a pleasure to be here today. As you can see, I'm not in a perfect shape due to an accident a couple weeks ago. Today I will be presenting you 3D printed house and everything. So the topic is given by the host, and as you can see, it might be a challenge to cover everything in 30 minutes, but I'll try to do my best. So these are the few topics I'd like to cover: types of manufacturing, thank you, 3D printing and architecture, and then I will do some introduction about my company, the past projects, and our path. Then I will be sharing with you a few past projects I hope you will find interesting. And then that will be most of it. So the traditional manufacturing are subtractive manufacturing and metamorphose manufacturing. I'm not sure this is quite the word, most of you Chinese. Basically means 等材设制造. I asked her how that Xuanye created this English phrase for me. And then the new type of manufacturing is additive manufacturing. So for each of the manufacturing type, the 4 major components is a production tool. So it might be a machine, it might be some kind of tools or a hardware, and then there will be a material and handling system, and then there will be a computer system to coordinate and control the production process. And then last, there will be a operator, a human operator there. So for subtractive manufacturing, which is the most common one, the change of material in the process of production is greater than 0. So some types of the subtractive manufacturing are milling, boring, laser cutting, and CNC machining. Also, and so I think it's not. working properly, the page. It's okay. So for this, oh, okay, now it's good. So for metamorphosis manufacturing, the change of material in the process of manufacturing equals to zero. Some type of this type of manufacturing is casting, molding, forging, and welding. And now let's talk about additive manufacturing, which is also known for 3D printing. The change of material is smaller than zero. I think it's not quite precise, but in the process of manufacturing, we're not creating any waste. It's additive. Some common types of 3D printing are listed here. So FDM is the most basic one. It's basically extrusion. So many of you probably have seen that. And MJF is multi-jet fusion, which is a powder-based additive manufacturing. SOA, DOP, and polyjet works basically with resin material and UV light. What is the difference? So SOA is actually the first type of 3D printing developed back in the 1980s. When you do the 3D printing, it's printed in a liquid resin tank. And the object is mostly printed upside down with supportive structures. The after, it does require some type of after process. You will need to bathroom it in alcohol liquid to do the cleaning up and everything. DLP is similar, but then it prints with a bigger size, and the lighting source is different from SOA. For polyjet, it doesn't require after the post-processing, and it also works with multiple material at the same time. SOS is similar to MJF, which is works with the nylon powders, and direct metal laser sintering and the EPM are similar. They work with metal powders. What's the difference? The temperature is different. Direct metal laser sintering works with, and also material. So DMLs works with precious metal, and EPM works with the titanium roasting. This is the video of the FDM extrusion printer. So it comes with a nozzle extruding the material out. So now let's talk about 3D printing and architecture. So the history of architecture, we can divide it into basically 4 stages. From left to right, on the top is the different stages. Basically, it's before the Industrial Revolution and the age of mass production. And then there will be the after modernism. And then the last stage, which is the current stage, we call it the age of mass customization. And then the characteristics of these different ages for architecture. So in the early times, sophisticated forms in architecture represents social classes. It usually comes with power associated with the religious, and only the rich can afford sophisticated forms in architecture. You see a lot of like churches and temples that have this type of forms. And then as the Industrial Revolution develops, the desire of sophisticated form diminishes, and the minimalism take over, and it's known for like any kind of like form is a thing. It's the function is the primary focus. And as 3D printing and computational design prosper, you see a return of sophisticated forms, and it's making the complexity more affordable without added costs. I will explain a little bit more on this part. So what does NECINA do? We focus on integrated workflows of computational design and digital fabrication at a different scale. The bottom part shows some of the materials we've been working with. I got many times asked how many printers you use and what are the materials. In general, there won't be a single manufacturer that will have all kinds of 3D printers or work with all materials. Nowadays, new generation or new type of 3D printer comes quicker than new generations of cell phones. These are so the material we work with are large scale metal, which I brought a scaled sample here, and we have our own composite material with recycled components in it, and we work with concrete and timber. This is a summary of the past projects grouped by size of the products, from small scale to furniture, middle scale, and to large building components scale. Again, our core focus is on the integrated workflow of computational design and digital fabrication. The focus is always on building industry, but then the learning from the project with building components also allow us to apply it to other types of products, consumer products. And so the second group, PPCP, stands for personalized profile and customized products. I'm wearing small jewelry that's generated by actually the process we learned from Group A, the building projects. Okay, so this is a brief timeline about the company. I founded NECINA Studio back in 2014. The early stages we started with R&D, and it's a continuous process till nowadays. In 2015, after we did some internal projects and research, we started to participate in international design competitions, and fortunately we've won a few awards out of that. And then we started to work with the market. Some of our clients are the top players in their own industry. So we worked with Autodesk, PwC, and we also collaborated, had talks with Adidas while they were doing their 3D printed shoes. In 2018, we started to more focus on buildings and houses. And we were fortunately able to generate enough revenue to fund our own, continue funding our own internal research. And now we're at the stage ready to scale up. So any of you interested in a partnership or investment, please reach out to me afterwards. So now let me focus on talking about the building industry and the 3D printing. In the center is what we call the one-stop solution for buildings. And on the yellow part is the bottom-up solution focused on 3D printed concrete house. And the blue part on the right is the top-down solution for high-end building products. Okay. So this is a quick summary to show you the different projects we did in the past. Hope gave you a more direct understanding. Everything starts with a design solution, and then these two yellow parts, the 3D printed concrete samples, were done back in the 2017 to test out the technology, and then the 3D printed house are generated from afterwards.
And then these are the top-down approaches. Everything you see here is a picture of the actual project. We've done like the cladding, 3D printed structure, and the 3D printed furnitures and some interiors. So now I'm going to share some of the projects and the insights and in the benefits we get from computational design and digital fabrication. So back a few years ago, computational clouds or workstations were actually pretty expensive, like back in 2015. Nowadays, the price have come down, so it becomes more affordable. I think that is creating tremendous opportunity for coming up times. This is a sculpture we did in 2015. I almost gone bankrupt to fund this project. This is the internal project. It's printed in stainless steel 316L, 17 feet tall, about 5 tons in weight. The right side is the rendering, the left side, sorry, the opposite. The left side is the rendering, the right side is the actual picture of the product. And here shows some of the details. So this is one characteristic about computational design and 3D printing. What you see is what you get. And high precision, tremendous detail. It's making what is impossible to manufacture in the older times possible now, and also at a relatively affordable cost. So these are more pictures. Sorry, back. Yeah. And so this looks, this is a sculpture, but it's also a building structure. That's another thing I want to point out. Right now, we are looking to host it, exhibition at the city of Boston, and we're also open to sponsorship for that. This is another project I'd like to share. We did for Autodesk. Basically, it is future facade system. The design process is done by generative design using the Autodesk software Fusion 360 Automate. Yeah, this shows you the interior wall, the exterior, and the middle part of the generative design, the structural part. I will explain what is generative design. Play the other video. So this video shows the process of how the program software generates the structure. Parametric design is different from generative design. Basically, in parametric design, you define the parameters, the size, the shape, and everything. But for generative design, it's basically large data computational design. The designer defines the result, the goal. And then the program would start at a random point, do like large number of iterations, and generate different results that deliver the same goal. Yeah, so this is probably more direct to explain what it is. So all these structures looks completely different. Then through the process of design, they perform the same structural function. How do you choose the result? It depends on a few factors, such as the cost, the look, the appearance preference, and also if you're able to get a building permit from the city, from the regulators. So this is the actual prints. And this is another project talking about the concrete 3D printing. This is a kitchen island, 3D printed one piece with concrete. We also use the Fusion 360 Automate, the software from Autodesk, to generate the design. It's done by fiber reinforced concrete. This video shows you how the design process is done.
processing the details and adding the patterns. Okay, so the upper part is the rendering, and then the lower part is the actual picture of the product. Again, what you see is what you get. And this is the cabinet. So for 3D generative design, 3D printing, one thing you can generate complicated forms. Another benefit is you're able to optimize the structure, the topology. So by doing that, the cabinet walls were able to save about 1/3 of the material we use, and still having the structure being able to hold up, and with the weight reduction. This is some more pictures. Oh, yeah, go down and play this video, and comes with a special design motion system. Okay, and this is the tile. It's again computationally designed. The flow goes with the shape of the kitchen island. Video. Thank you. So this part, the computational design is about the same process, but then we did use 3D printing. This is the water jet cutting. Oh. Okay, that's fine. So this is the actual production and installation process. It comes with 200 unique shapes of the tiles, customized. And this is the stair part. It's a CNC milled. Okay, go down to show the video, please. So this is how the program generates the design of the stair, and then you link it to the machine, the manufacturing facility to produce it. This is not a rendering, this is the actual generation of the stair. So basically what you do is you would scan, 3D scanning the whole space, put in the design requirements as well as coding and coding regulations, and the computer does the design process work for you. And the benefit of it is if any one of you want a stair of this look, but then in your own space, I don't need to do the design again. Just give me like your stair full dimension, and we enter it, well, auto generates the design for you. So it saves on the cost for a design process. Okay, go back. Yeah. On the left side, you see some of the red dots. Those were the stair brackets 3D printed in metal. Yeah, can you go down one more? Yeah, this shows the process for generative design for the metal brackets. These are the different iterations. So when it comes to the benefits, there are a few. First of all, when you are doing customized metal parts, the traditional way requires you to open like a mold, and the cost doesn't come down unless you do large quantity production. With 3D printing, the cost comes down. You can just print one or a few units as needed. This shows the difference. Yeah. Okay, can you go back? Yeah. So those shows the different iterations of the generative process, and then again you print it with a proper 3D printer. Okay, this this picture of the staircase. It is so basically it is like manufactured into 50 pieces for easy assembly. And this is the 3D printed concrete feature wall. The subdivision is done with the flow of the pattern, which is a little bit different than traditional like straight lines cutting, and with a lot of details. Okay, so the left is the rendering, the right is the actual product. This is the final installation of the feature wall. This is a final look of the project. Okay, now I will be talking a bit more about the concrete houses 3D printed. I'll cover a little bit about the printers and the major industry players, and sharing a little bit of our design. So there are two major types of 3D printers. One is a gantry system, one is robotic arms. This is a gantry system. It comes with the structure and then also sometimes it also comes with the printing platform underneath. This is a robotic arm. This is another robotic arm 3D printer with a spider body. Makes it fancy. Can you play the video, please? So the next video shows robotic arms 3D printer. And right, it's a gantry 3D printer printing concrete. There are quite a few manufacturers for the material and for the printer. The prices generally range from 300K to probably $1 million. What's the difference? It's the precision, the material, the size, that determines the price. These are some of the major players in US. There's probably another couple dozen of different companies doing 3D printing worldwide. ICON is in Texas. Many of you probably heard of the name if you know, you're familiar with the 3D printing house industry. Mighty, so they do ICON does on-site printing. Mighty, and they use a gantry system. Mighty Buildings is in the California area. They prefab. We will see like the pictures of their printers and products later. Apis4, these guys were actually from originally from Russia, and they were my neighbors in the Autodesk Tech Center for a couple of years. Very interesting enough. So I personally know the founding group. Cobot is actually a German company, and but then they've been very active in the United States market. Basically, they're a printer manufacturer. If you talk with the founder, Hendrik, he will try to sell you one of his best printer in half an hour. And there's others. So this is ICON. They use a gantry system. The products, this is the later generation of products. It's been in the market probably longest in the United States. This is a hybrid system because they do like on-site printing, and then it's a challenge to move to different units because it's on-site. Imagine like if you do 1 unit in 1 day, how many days and how many printers it's going to need for 1,000 units projects. So I think that is a challenge for them and other on-site printing 3D print companies. This is Mighty Buildings. They're smart. They're doing 3D. They're doing prefab and mini units, and then they would crane the products to the site. This is Apis4. They use oh sorry, I missed that. Can go back. Yeah, so they use the gantry system as well. That's their printer. And Apis4 use robotic arm. They've been very active in the Middle East as well. Right now, I think they're in the southeast area of the States. And this is Cobot, their printer. They don't do the house design or anything. Basically, they're trying to sell their printers. I think their material partner is CMAX, and they will provide the trainings and everything. Recently, I think they are partnering with GE Renewable for wind turbines. So going down. And now let's talk about NECINA's housing solution. The major difference is while the other players probably more focus on the machine, the printer, or the material, while they would outsource other parts of the house. We do everything in-house integrated. So the design, the engineering, the material, and 3D printer are all done in-house. When we do the design, we think about what's the requirement for the printer and what's the need for the material. And the result is a more efficient system to do the house printing. So just to share some of the designs, the basic one is the more, this is a different design of the single family. And this is a luxury house. And this is the next section, which is just like sharing some side projects with it out of those building projects, which is basically the same workflow and process. I often get the question from people, what exactly is your company doing? And think about the digital revolution. The machines and the computers actually does not speak the same language as human beings. As human, we need the classification about products in the industry, but for the digital system, it usually comes with a function like a need and a design, and then associated with the manufacturing means and the material and the cost and the schedule. So everything actually is about the same to the digital system. Yeah, this is showing like how we generated the other products from the initial 3D printing envelope system for Autodesk. This is a personalized mask. This is showing the computational process, how it can quickly customize individuals' design at no cost. So for me to generate a product on my computer, it takes about 10 minutes each. If I move to a more powerful workstation in my office, it takes about a second. It really depends on the computational speed of the program. This is my good-looking coworker demo. This is bespoke glass. Those spaceships are actually mine. I'm the guinea pig when we developed these products, and I have a prototype here I brought today. It's personalized for my face, facial spec. This is the 3D printing shoes. Can you please play the video? Yeah. So this is also the computational process to personalize the product's design. And then through API submission, you can connect it with a 3D printing base, a manufacturing base. How do you customize it? You will get a pressure map of individuals and link it to a smart program which attracts the numbers of an individual walking pattern, and then generates the shoes and then 3D print it. This is the actual product. So that's the end of my presentation. There are many other sectors or topics that I'm not able to cover, and hopefully we probably can discuss it a little bit in a later panel, such as regulations. Technology advancement is going really at a fast speed, and then there you can see there's a gap in the regulation and the standard. This is the early stage or the beginning of a new digital revolution. I think it's very important for the early players like my company and the other business out there to set the right tone about the direction it goes. For example, some of the concerns are the younger generation is picking up the technology really fast. They can print something just in their basement with a consumer grade of printer. And do you really know what they're printing out there? It might be weapons, it might be toys. So these are the things we need to address as for the social responsibility. I just wanted to share a little bit on that part. So that's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Any questions in the audience?
So how do you make sure the product safety? So in traditional manufacturing, they usually produce small batch and then test it maybe multiple times. first one, you use it only once for one person, and how do you make sure that it
That's a very good question. So depend on the industry and depend on the products. I will talk about the building industry. So basically everything you do, you will need to test and present the lab reports about the material and the structure. So it goes with the traditional way. A third party lab will do the testing for us, and anything you put out there, you can't do it freely. You will have to get a permission. And believe me, a couple years ago, it's the most challenge. Technology-wise, we were able to do all this, but a couple years ago, it's almost impossible to get a permit to install those, but it's opening up. And for personal products, there's a QC process. So you can do, you will always do like a prototyping process, going through the QC process, testing it, make sure it's safe, and then do the mass customization afterwards.
More questions?
So looks like, thank you for sharing. This is really eye-opening. So I looked at a lot of beautiful houses built. So what is the cost per square footage to build these houses? And what's the time frame to assemble that?
Okay, that is also a very good question. It depends on the actual house. We're doing customization. So I would divide it into different stages. For the first pilot project, it takes a little bit longer to do the design process. Once that is done, the design actually takes no time, like tenths of time, compared with the traditional way. And you 3D printed everything we done. We have an installation manual. So compare with the traditional way, it is about 10% to 80% faster. And also the labor requirements, which is another important factor, is way less than the traditional lead.
about cost?
Oh, cost. Sorry. It depends on the actual design and the house. In general, if we compare apple to apple, it's always cheaper and better. Better in the sense of efficiency in the installation process, in the energy saving aspect. But if you're, and sometimes the design comes out more sophisticated and it cannot be done traditionally. So you will have to make your own judgment if it works to do like the unit design that's really fancy, just like that. But then cost, I should give a number range on the cost. So so the per square foot cost can go anywhere from $50 to $300. Yeah.
What's included installation, just for your patient, not include the installation.
Sorry, can you?
Installation.
Yeah.
Installation. Okay, so that's another major benefit we get from the automated workflow. The installation is faster than the traditional way, and also requires less people to operate the 3D printer and to build it on site. So right now, to safely to say 30% to 50%, we're aiming to do it 80%. You know, I've been reading articles from the news saying how quick they can print one unit in like say 24 days or 24 hours. But you really work with concrete, you will know the concrete cures longer than 24 hours. So those numbers in the article is exaggerated. This is the early stage where like the early participants. So you're basically developing those. We're trying to make it as efficient as possible.
Also a cost question. The smaller scale of products, are they compared with injection molding, casting, and all the traditional manufacturing process? What is the cost benefit of that? For example, your mask, your frames.
Okay, so there are multiple dimensions to look at it. I think first of all, you will ask, why 3D printing? Why not do it the traditional way, right?
with mass production in some of the products, you can beat the cost as the scale, the economy of scale comes out. I'd say a safe generic range to say when you need customization for larger number of people. The saving on cost and on the design process and manufacturing time is tremendous. Use the eyeglass or mask as an example. Once I have the program built, which I already built, I can generate over 1,000 of individual masks in a week. And you can do that with traditional design process. And you can seamlessly connect it with manufacturing-based, 3D printer-based. And it depends on the machine you choose. They have different printing speed and the cost, but it will still be way faster than the traditional way.
I would have 2 questions. Go first.
Okay.
Hi, Jing. Wonderful presentation. I learned a lot. I have 2 questions. Could be very in different direction. First one is, do you need to certify your material that's related to safety critical mission usage? Do you need to get material?
In short, you do.
You do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, such as the strength, such as the aging, corrosion resistance.
Yes, and also about the structural performance, the load bearing, the carrying bearing, waterproof, weatherproof, just to name a few. Yeah.
Yeah, great to know. Second question is about how do you envision your business in future? Is that going to be a niche, low volume, or mass production?
That is a continued going question internally for us as well. A couple years ago, my main focus is on the innovative side. We were able to bootstrap, self-fund, which is very fortunate. My clients and partners has been very supportive. For example, Autodesk sponsored all the software for free for us to use, and their tech center, which includes most of the equipment we will need, which probably is in $100 million for free for us to use. Yeah. They provide the training, so this saves me a lot, allow us to do the R&D and everything. Realistically speaking, I recently realized we're a business. We need to make profits, especially with longer scale, and we probably need external funding. And we're at a perfect timing to scale up. Then you have to be responsible, thinking about what's the ROI, return on investment for people who provide the funds to, right? Yeah. So we want to focus on the mass customization production of houses. Building is always our primary focus, and you can also see the market opens up, developers opens up. There's a huge demand on what we do. Yeah.
Good enough. Last minor question. What would be your capital structure? Say, going to be physical investment heavy or software and human capital investment heavy? What would be the structure?
I'm trying to find a perfect balance for that. And as you probably can sense, when you ask about technology and design, I have all the ideas. When you ask about the business, I'm trying to learn. And if any of you have good advice or insights, please also contact me and share with me, and I will be that kind of help.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got also a couple of questions. One is environment in terms of recyclability, and the other question in terms of heat transfer. Obviously, if you use concrete or wood, heat transfer would be much less than plastic. So I'm just wondering if you took that into consideration with walls or any buildings.
Okay, so sorry, please keep that speaker because I want you to. Okay. Can we start with one question?
Yeah, in terms of the environment and recycling.
Sorry, the first.
Recycling.
Okay, so I would kind of look at the green effects from a little bit different aspects, the overall performance of the system, of the workflow. Talking about the material, as long as you comply with the regulation, there are multiple options to use recyclable material in that. For example, the composites and the concrete, the green concrete, we've used the recyclable aggregates in the mixture.
and it can go as much as 60%. That's what we used. We're hoping to reach 80%, but it's a lengthy process of testing and the validation. But overall, if you're able to make the system, like the build process, the manufacturing process, more efficient, that's also saving on the energy side. Honestly, concrete is not a really green material, we all know, but it's a good massive heating in those, right? And then making the installation, the build process more efficient, utilizing the computational power. The long-term performance of the house is also going to be energy saving. So that's what we're trying to reach. And what is your second question?
So a house would be built in Alaska, same thing like in Florida?
No, actually no. So I can't remember. Excuse me. Can you go a few pages up to the housing pictures? Yeah. Page page 63. Yep. So the look can be similar or the same, but then the structure definitely need to be different. For example, if you're building something in the north, in the East Coast, like in Massachusetts, you need a proper insulation. The current housing issues, one of the things is the heating discomfort, right, in Massachusetts. But then if you're building the same house in Arizona or Florida, you want to remove those insulation layers. That's going to save the cost, but it can look the same.
I think probably, so this is the last one that I could ask. Thank you for sharing that. This is very amazing. One question I have is that when I look at your presentation, it really depends on the robot, the gantry robot or the 3D coordinating robot. So it seems that if you want to build a building more than 2 storage, if I want to build a 10 floor, is the limitation for this current technology, or going forward you will see it will happen for the topic?
Okay, so I would say the limitation on us is more on the funding. So if you're doing residence, it's easier to do 1 floor, 1 story. The reason we're doing we're doing like the 2 stories is in the pilot, the demo, we want to figure out the taller buildings and then move on to apartments, buildings, and all those.
All right, I think it's time. So thank you, Jane, again. Jane, you want to join us?
Yeah,
it's up to you.
You have enough seats, or I can sit down.
So now you have an opportunity to see the kind of amazing work that Jing has done over the years. And now we're having our panel sessions. Here with me are Sheena, Renato, and Jing herself. So why don't we get started by having the panelists introduce themselves. Let's start from Jing. Do you want to?
Yeah, again, I'm Jing, founder of NECINA Studio, and also I'm doing like solutions for computational design and digital fabrication. I think I'm setting up, so I'm going to use a bit quick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ronaldo Santana, and founder of ESG Housing Inc. Santana Capital Group. It's a nonprofit and for-profit. We do tech consulting, prop tech, real estate plus technology, and also just tackling the affordable housing problem that we have in the U.S. and also internationally.
Hi, my name is Sheena Penna. I am actually the founder of a logistics company called Pinktrax. I'm focusing on building better solutions to importing to the United States. I also consult on companies here in the United States and in China. I graduated from Tsinghua University a few years ago, and I work with startups all over the world.
All right, thank you. So this session of the panelists will basically talking more about the business and government side of the greenhouse, and the next session will talk more about the technology. So let's get started with a question for Leonardo. So you were talking about affordable housing, right? So everybody knows that we are facing a very serious problem right now, which is inflation. Okay, which also drives up the housing price a lot. I mean, to a historical high. So how do you think any vision 3D printing house would contribute to the affordable housing in this kind of era?
Yes, great question. So we all seen that since COVID, lumber prices have spiked up tremendously, and that's really due to shortage of labor, supply chain, overall big mess. And in some markets, believe it or not, concrete is now much more affordable than lumber. But overall, as you know, this presentation showed that with a 3D printing machine, it's better, it's faster, efficient, it's 10 times X than traditional methods. It's less labor intensive, there's little to no waste. So overall, you know, a great solution. Not only that, but if you look around the world, the majority of homes that are built are really based on concrete. I think the US overall is, our method is like over 100 years old, and we're still building with sticks. Or lumber, as you call it, but it's not stable. And you know, for example, my home country is Dominican Republic, and every year they spend about $420 million rebuilding homes because they don't have the right materials to do that. But with 3D printing or with the right materials to concrete, that can be a great solution for them and for other countries as well that waste many money on trying to find that right solution. I think 3D printing is that solution for that reason.
So based on your personal experiences, what kind of key factors that would influence the investor's decision on whether to putting money to 3D printing house or not?
Yeah, so I do work with many investors and developers. I raise capital as well with them. And what I've seen that one of the common questions is what's the cost per square foot, right? Which was the question I was asked today. And it's tough to answer that question because every state is different, right? 3D printing, national building. All right, so I'll speak louder. So it means international building program. It doesn't mean really statewide building codes. Every state is different, and this is why one needs to have a civil engineer report and show the similarity of regular concrete building versus 3D printing. It's very similar, but they want to know what that cost looks like, what that range looks like. They like to know also what is the return on investment. They like to know also who's the main operator, what's their track record, how long have they been doing it, who are the players in there, and basically the risk overall, because every investor has a different level of risk tolerance. So it's really good for those that are early adopters, investors that are impact investors that are looking to invest money into something that's going to help society in the long term. So the little key elements is basically how long have you been doing it, who's backing you up before that kind of make that jump.
Okay. So do you find investors more interested in residential or commercial, and why is that?
So I've seen both in terms of interest. There's investors that do want to tackle housing because it's one of the best assets out there. But then you have people who love self-storage, which is a lot easier to build because the more industrial you go in terms of 3D printing, the easier it is and faster you can do versus housing, which is a lot more red tape, a lot more political stuff involved. And like I mentioned, those engineering reports, but if it's an office space or self-storage, it's a lot easier. So I've seen interest from investors on both sides, by that residential and commercial.
And do you think that'll be the future? I mean, is substitute the traditional way or not really, or just?
Personally, I believe this is the future. Just because what we're seeing in other countries in Asia or Europe, they're beginning to, I can't say begin, they're continuing to build 3D printing. North America is behind, but every single year we're seeing a lot more investors invest more into this niche. I mean, one of the VCs or ventures out there in New York called Shadow Ventures, they're the one that backing up Icon, which Icon is right now the only 3D printing company in the US that has the most backing in terms of investors. And so in my opinion, I believe it is the future. It is where things are going. I mean, we've seen what happened with the pandemic. When that happened, what happened? We all stayed home in some ways, right? We're locked in, and we all were online, so we kind of turned into virtual working, remote working. There was more online access to education. So who knows what can happen down the road in terms of, lumber. If something were to affect lumber, we'd have to shift, right? And so far, there's a lot of use cases that we can use and back up and to show folks that how 3D printing has been a solution. Green, sustainable, efficient, faster, and now becoming a lot more affordable in some markets. So I personally believe it's the future, and this is why I'm involved.
Just a quick reminder that for the panelists, this is meant to be an interactive section. So if anyone of the other panelists have any comments about what Vinava has to say, feel free, all right? All right, so the next set of questions is targeted for Shana. So we know that real estate is very much tied to the government regulations. I know that Shana is an expert on that. So what do you think the government's role in this kind of business and how we deal with it?
Well, we have to think of the government as three different entities, right? So we have the federal government, we have the state government, and then we have the municipalities, the local government, right? And each of them have their own regulations. Federally, right now, they're trying to figure it out, right? Just like with data and other new innovations, they don't know how to regulate it, right? And so federally, they're looking for, companies like Gene to be participating with the federal government to figure out how to better regulate the, 3D printing here in the United States. Federally, they really don't act until something goes wrong, right? They only act because they don't want to control what's going on in the states. They want states and local municipalities to have their own control. So when we look at this, we actually have to look at this by state thing. So there are construction rules that are international that everybody abides by, but different states are going to come up with their own solutions based on what's going on in their states, right? And so here in Massachusetts, we've actually just created more favorable laws for construction like this. And so right now here in Massachusetts, we have a lot of regulations that are preventing some constructions here in Massachusetts. And so they're trying to make it easier for developers to make more affordable housing and other types of housing. Like right now, you can't make small houses here in Massachusetts, right? And the reason why is because you need to be hooked up to the system. So you have to be hooked up to the sewage system. You have to be hooked up to the electrical system. And so if you're not, then you don't have a legal home. And so they're trying to find other solutions because we need more solutions. We need more solutions because we do not have the right housing for our population right now. And so I think right now what we have to look at is what's going on locally. And locally, it's happening in California, it's happening in Texas, it's happening in Florida, but it's not happening in the Northeast. And that's why G is here in the Northeast, because here we actually do need this. We have a big climate issue, just like other parts of the world, that we need to figure out more housing solutions.
So do you generally see some reservations for the government for this kind of projects?
Not really reservations until there's a problem, right? And so right now, everything's going okay. We haven't seen any issues with construction problem. In the way that these things are designed, like Jean said, they're designed to code, right? When she inputs the information into the computational design system, she puts in the codes too. So there's no way that it can be out of the range that it's supposed to be. And that's what's so fascinating about computational design and where we're going with quantum computing. Right now, we're going to be able to put in all of these different variables that we used to calculate by ourselves and actually come up with better products, safer products for people.
So do you see governmental participation in this kind of innovative technologies, especially in the farming part?
It has to be a government, it has to be collaborative, right? We need to work with the government. We need to work with different industries, right? We have to work with developers and investors. This has to be a collaborative effort to actually take.
And do you see government, providing funding for this kind of stuff?
Oh, absolutely. So right now, the federal government is actually trying to use additive printing for the military. And so they're actually testing it on military bases all over the United States. And so that's one of their first test cases. And as we know, here in the US, that's one of the first places they do start testing these things because the military is an easy testing ground. But there is some federal funding that it's going for.
And do you see any sort of, governmental hindrance of trying to prevent this technology from happening?
No, I don't. I actually don't, unless there's a problem. unless they see people that are skirting the codes or not doing the right thing. I think until there's a problem, I think they're definitely going to be for it.
I think you may have something to say about this.
I was just going to share some insight about projects that built and then the participation about the government side or about the regulators. You remember there was the stairs, and you do need to get a permit to install that stair, and it's unfortunately in Cambridge. And so people probably know how hard it is to get a permit from the Cambridge government. And but fortunately, we got that permit, and it was the regulator, the permit writer were actually very impressed and supportive through the process. But they do require like a higher standard for getting that permit. So they ask for a shop drawing. So when do you need a shop drawing for install stairs? Generally you don't. But then for this one, they ask for a shop drawing. And another thing is that it does open up for getting permits. A couple years ago, one thing you can say about new technology is people freak out before knowing what it is. As the markets get educated and these people from government are professionals. So if you provide the proper documentation, lab reports, it opens up.
Yeah, I also have to say that a reason why I believe is also the future to the 3D printing is because even NASA is working with a few 3D printing companies like Nikon, like Aviscore. So there are grants available for this to start doing prototyping for housing in Mars or the moon, I think it is. One of those two, doesn't matter, right? But basically they're doing testing on prototyping and using 3D printing machines for this. So again, that's one thing. Second thing, what they mentioned is education is a big thing. As more use cases comes out, the more different governments starts learning about this and start supporting more and more. You can find a lot more of 3D printing development towards the south, in Florida, you see Virginia, Arizona, Texas, California, New York, Massachusetts. I mean, every year there's more and more projects happening that should tell you something about the trend, right? That's it.
And in Virginia, the partnership is with HUD, which is a federal agency that provides housing for poor people. And the way that this program works is you actually participate. If you're the person that's receiving the house, you actually participate in the building of this house. So we're actually opening up opportunities to reskill and upskill vulnerable communities. So if you participate in this HUD program now, I don't know if you've ever seen the videos of Jimmy Carter out there, hitting the nails, because that's what you have to do. You have to build the HUD house with the participants. And if you use 3D printing, which Virginia is trying to do, then you're actually upskilling a population that needs to be upskilled. So these people are going to learn how to design their new house using CAD. They're going to learn how the 3D printer works. And then they're going to be able to take those skills and get jobs in manufacturing, which is exactly where we need them to be is, as we, rebuild our manufacturing base, this is how we're going to do it.
Well, the question is for Shana. You just mentioned about workers. Do you see a decline of demand of workers if we implement this 3D printing house because there's no need of labor?
So we already have a problem hiring skilled construction right now. Labor unions here in Massachusetts are not getting enough skilled employees. So we actually are in the perfect time to introduce something that requires less effort, right? And so if we can't find the skilled workers, then we need a process that requires less skilled workers. And the 3D printing actually allows that. Now, do I think the unions are going to be excited? No, right? The unions want to provide jobs. They want to have a lot of people having great jobs. So they're not going to like hearing, okay, there's less people working on it. But we have to think about this. There's going to be different opportunities, right? So it might not be the opportunity in building the house, but it will be another opportunity that's going to present itself in logistics or a different part of the supply chain, like materials. And so there'll be new opportunities for the people phased out.
Well, like many innovations in the past, right? When we replace candle by the electric bulbs, the people lighting up candles lose their jobs.
Exactly,
right? Okay.
Exactly. But that's what's so great about this is it has to be education, right? We have to have education in collaboration with this because we need the employees for it.
Well, first of all, about robots, machines replacing human, I think that would be more of a concern for a company like Boston Dynamics. And the second, if you look at the shortage in builders in the United States market, you can be concerned about machine replacing builders. It's actually there's a crisis, the shortage of builders right now in the market. Yeah.
So I want to interrupt. I mention for those folks that are into 3D printing, because it happened to me. When we say 3D printing, doesn't mean 100% everything's 3D printed. So even today, all those projects you may find online was done in a hybrid mode where there was 3D printing involved, but they also had a GC, which is a general contractor involved to do the heating, cooling, the HVAC, plumbing, all that stuff is done with, traditional methods. So it all comes down to the designer, the client itself. The 3D printer can do the foundation, the walls, roof, you name it. But sometimes they want maybe just the walls to be 3D printed, and everything else to be tradition, or just the walls, foundation, 3D printed, everything else, tradition methods. So it really comes down to also the client, the builder, design.
Since we know that the United States has a shortage of laborers, so I mean, this technology will be very much suited to the United States. So what do you think about other countries? Like which countries will benefit from this technology?
Well, in general, I think all countries, because it's not an isolated issue for labor shortage. There's also issues about aging in construction workers. I mean, everyone would think Asian countries like China has a lot of laborers, but then if you really dig into the market, you can see the age of these people in that industry. So it presents the same challenge. It's true there's more builders in China, but then there's also more projects and higher demand in China. So the issue is about the same, and it applies kind of like to all other countries.
Okay, so based on the presentation today, we see that 3D printed house is actually involved in many different sub-technology areas. So, I mean, to the panelists, especially for Jim, which part of the sub-area do you see needs the most improvement for technology? I mean, technology improvement and investments.
Well, that is a big question. So right now, from my company's experience, I think this is only the very early stage and the beginning of a huge revolution, and we only see a tiny part of it. How big is the potential? We don't know. We're actually actively building towards that and explore the full potential of it. So to Shania's question, which part, we're focusing on the building industry. So I would say the building industry, as Renato mentioned, we're still using technologies 100 years old to build the houses here. And the COVID person complicates the situation. It's hard to get a builder team. Developers I've talked with are freaking out because the construction material price and the supply chain issues. So yeah, building industry is something I would say we focus.
I think I've run out of my questions. I'm going to open up the questions from the audiences. If you have any questions, feel free. Connie?
Yes. I don't. Thank you all for sharing. I actually have previously I'm having a burning question about sort of how the regulatory compliance in terms of getting different permits, electricity, ventilation, or sewer system and the fire system, etc. How does that sort of interact and impact the timing of the 3D printing of house? I think all of you combined answered my question to some extent. I was more imagining you go ahead and do the 3D printing continuously and stuff, and in the middle of it, how are you going to make sure the permit, you're getting the permit for all different systems? Because in the traditional way of constructing house, oftentimes you hear the contractor say, you know what, I don't have to wait for 3 weeks for the city to come over to get your permit on this. Then you continuously do a few weeks, saying, okay, I'm gonna be waiting for another month for the city to come to get a permit. So Renato just mentioned that there is part of the construction is done in the 3D printing, and the other part is still being done in the traditional way. Is that traditional way that you mentioned that in terms of way getting the permit from the city, this is what you meant by traditional way? So timing wise, do you have to factor into that waiting time period? You know, the time period you have to wait to get the permit, projecting that time into the entire project to estimate how long would it take, you know, for me to build this, you know, house by 3D printing versus traditional way of building it. I don't know if that makes
I'm
sense.
just gonna say something, it depends on your community. It really does, you know, because you get your permits from your community, right? Like where you live, so Gene Becker's in Cambridge. And so it really does. Yeah, so I'm from Brookline, it would be really difficult, right? But it has to be collaborative. I didn't mean to take your space. But it has to be collaborative, right? And it's, you get your permitting from your local community. So that would be it. You have to work directly with them if you're gonna do something different. You can't do anything different.
Ladies first.
And the situation you described is very true. I'd like to distinguish between a single permit for an individual project versus establishing a building code to upgrade it, working collaboratively with the government to you know, hopefully move it as soon as possible. Have a like building code system working with the technology advancements.
Right. So Jean, you previously mentioned that getting a permit from the city of Cambridge, you know, they have a higher standard for certain permits because the house is built by 3D printing. In that sense, do you think the city or the local government is ready to sort of determine, do they have the capability and the knowledge, you know, the human resources to sort of determine what is the higher standard as the requirement for permits if the house is built by 3D printing rather than the traditional way? Are they ready?
So requiring like a more material, have a higher standard to give out the permit, I actually think it's a positive signal. That means the city, people is trying to understand how it works, right? They gave the permits at the same time they are trying to learn what is the new technology people are using out there to build these projects. So it's actually a positive sign, but it takes some time and there's a process for that.
Okay.
So that's why it's very important on, you know, the early participants collaboratively work together and set up the trend, the tone on how things proceed.
Okay. One last question for Shauna. Do you think the state government is sort of really embracing the trend and catching up with the future regulation to sort of maybe upgrade the state code, building code? To help the local government?
I think here in Massachusetts, they're working very hard to change codes right now. And the reason why is because in some places, development is not happening in the right places, you know? And so they're working really hard to change. One of the rules that they just recently changed was a zoning law. And what it used to be was it had to be a majority, and now it just has to be a simple majority. I think it used to be a 2/3 majority, and now it has to just be a simple majority to change the zoning law. Well, that's a big deal here because it'll change the way the communities are able to stimulate development of space or tiny houses or, you know, things that some communities are fighting right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for introduce three like a printing houses. What I try to understand is to see we are already building the house. What's the real difference from 3D printing a house and a regular house? And it's the same house we already built for hundreds, thousands of years. It's like a box. We have windows, ceilings, all the stuff. What kind of materials can really make a breakthrough, right? Why I didn't do that? Yeah, it's not that we have technology. We have a technology for everything. Why we need to do this? Which part of the stuff we need to do it, right? We cannot just jump to, oh, we need to complex something. Or really going to improve our life or not, right? It's to why.
So right now, the construction industry is the biggest polluter in the United States. So if you go to every state's greenhouse gas emissions, it is the construction industry that is the biggest polluter. So 3D printing actually takes that and changes it a bit, right? So it's not as environmentally damaging, you know, and so that's one of the reasons every single state in the United States right now has to figure out how to limit the greenhouse gas emissions from the construction industry because they're so significant.
And just add to Shayna's point, I would also look at it for different groups. So for homeowners, the tenants, it doesn't matter because they're more focused on the user experience, right? It doesn't matter if it's a 3D printed house or it's a traditional built house. It comes down to if that's a dream house that you want to build your home. Can you afford it? What is the cost of the maintenance over the long term? So these are the factors that's related to if the house is 3D printed. Then if you look at for the industry, for the developers and the builders and for the regulators, in short, we're trying to make it better, cheaper, and faster in different aspects.
Yeah, and just to add to the points, the most important thing is safety, right? How much you care about your life. I'm sure you care a lot about your life. When it comes to
You're saying that a regular house is not safe, but we come there.
I personally think Chinese houses are not safe. If a tornado comes, goodbye.
Yeah.
Right? Hurricane comes, stretch your house, goodbye.
You cannot.
Right?
More safe than current.
There has been a benchmark analysis with materials to the concrete and wood, and it shows clearly that concrete is a lot stronger than bulletproof in some cases. You can kind of attest to that in terms of some materials and how that works.
So yeah, to elaborate that a little bit, I do think using computational design paired with large scale 3D printing can improve the structural performance a little bit better. Material-wise, the concrete items I shared, we did get like a German lab to test the material. The load variant to share with you is 10,000 PSI. So it is better than a general concrete. So it depends, and it all works integrated than separately, right? You don't want to say, oh, the structure is better, but then I'm using another material. We're trying to work it all together to make it better.
So with all new technologies, there's always a time to adopt, and this is one of those technologies where it's new to the public and it's new, most importantly, to government and to municipalities and local states. With construction, we have standards. We know how long wood takes to burn through. We're talking fireproof. We know about insulation. We know about roofing and things like that. What efforts are going on from the industry's perspective side to help establish standards so municipalities, states, and the government can rely on these standards for evaluation of designs? Just like architectural designs, buildings, and things are built now, they use standard calculations. They know how the structures are built because they know the basis of materials. What efforts are going on to assist the states and the federal government to have useful standards to be able to just say, hey, this is approved, you go for it?
That is a super good question, and it does take tremendous effort. I would say work together, you know, with the government, with the developer, with the builder, and with the end user. And it all comes with thousands of mini steps. First of all, lab reports. For everything that's existing, you're not trying to overtake the current building structure. We're trying to say, I have a better solution to make the current structure or the house or the product better and cheaper, more affordable. So lab reports, testings, sample projects, and then I can give you an example. This sample is made for the company, the architecture company, Alcasem 3D. I don't know how many of you know that. It's one of the best architect firm in Massachusetts. So they understand it, but then they're not actually the one developing the material and then the work workflow. But when we presented this to them, they immediately get it. They are professionals. They would ask questions and what's the strength of the material? Can you do this form? How quick can you do that? What's the price? And then we will kind of try to meet in the middle through like many discussions where to put it in a real case in the markets. You don't want it to stay in the app forever. You want to see things that's actually built out and out there for the majority consumer to benefit from it. But then you start with experts in your industry working on different aspects, and then you work with educational institutions trying to build a curriculum to share, to educate the newer generation, and also maybe working with the current working force to introduce it. So these are the professional side, and then the government, it's a trend. So governments want to serve, right? If say Texas is giving out some permits for 3D printed house, I'm sure the other states is looking at it and thinking, okay, maybe we should open up. So it's just a gradual process working on that, and come to promoting it. I'll say it's the effort.
So I think we should be state funded divisions. Do you think there should be 3D printed standards that are managed state or federal wide? And,
yes.
And that's where it starts?
Yes, definitely. I think the government should be the leader on setting up the standard, the safety regulations and everything.
Yeah, I think we are running out of time. So thank you very much. Feel free to talk to the
Next, let's welcome the second panel, moderated by Dr. Ren. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Xue, so much for making such a wonderful panel discussion. And it's a little bit of out of the loop that this is set up for the panel discussion. It's more of a kind of meeting in a very formal way. So I'll try my best to moderate it and remind me if I go to do something wrong. So a quick round of this. So we totally get 40 minutes from now until before the lunch. So don't pay me if I run a little over. And today, I think the last session, we focused a lot, very specifically on the market of how we print a house. And actually, make the house a really a great place, a great replacement for the current industry. But now, I think over on this stage, we have panelists that all focus on different areas and different applications of this 3D printing. So that's going to be a little broader, but probably also be very deep in a certain way regarding technology. So let's welcome them. So thank you for doing that. It's a fortunate, getting this opportunity to moderate this, and hopefully we have a really in-depth discussion. Also, at the for the goal of this discussion, I hope that it's not only for a lot of geeks that are talking about 3D printing and the technology. I hope that we can bring just one step forward, which is, I know we have a lot of investors. We have people looking for opportunities. We have people also looking for collaborations. So we would have a second round of questions regarding, okay, how we can work together and cultivate a kind of a community so that we can better accelerate it. We can actually help to promote. So okay, this is a long enough ice break. So let's start with three. Basically, each of our panelists
Austin, Dirk, and John. We'll have a 30-second, roughly, self-intro with all of them. So start with Austin. How about that?
Perfect. Hi everyone, it's really glad to be here today. So I'm Austin Liu, the co-founder and operation lead of RapLab. RapLab stands for Robotic Autonomous Building Laboratory. So basically, we are a technology solution startup. So we use robots to 3D print housing and also commercial warehouse units in the Northeast region. So also with sustainable materials. So our mission is to accelerate building to fast assembly and then to achieve it easy build anywhere, anytime. So basically my interest is to address climate change through design technology, so which leads to 3D printing housing. So yeah, that's a little bit more about me.
Cool. So Dirk, I know you quite well, and I know you specifically have interest and a lot of expertise in the laser field. So tell us a little more about it.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Dirk Burrows, and I'm the president and founder of Vitech Industrial Laser Systems. So we've been building a variety of CAD/CAM based machine tools for over 30 years, mostly integrating laser technologies. So really, we're part of the subtractive side of things. More recently, we've started to evolve into both additive and subtractive product categories. And we're currently building some R&D equipment for a large university, so exploring larger printing, precision printing, in perhaps even used in home building, but also used in general industries and things like that. So I appreciate the opportunity to pass on my views.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Dirk. Joe, last but not least, and I know that you do have a lot of activities in this field already. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zhang. I'm the founder and CEO of industrial large-scale 3D printing service company, Cloud-Bay. And I'm very happy to come here to share my experience with you guys. And hopefully, more people ask questions. Why 3D is not as good as we hope? The reason I'm saying that is 3D is already 40 years. I challenge everybody in the audience. How many 3D products have you seen?
Very good question.
So let's ask tough questions. We all love 3D. If we don't attack the right problem, the 3D industry will go slow.
Yeah, very, very good. Actually, indeed, that's supposed to be my honor to ask questions to you guys, but you actually come one step faster than me. So, but no matter what, this is a very good question. Indeed, my first round of questions and discussion is focused on that. I have my first 3D printer purchased about 7 years ago, 2015. And I used that to print a lot of prototypes for my early projects. Merely, very basic plastic PLA stuff. And I also noticed that 3D printing industry is just as any other really early revolutionary technology that it actually take probably a long time and also quite a bit of energy to actually live it up, which I started in the past 7 or 8 years ago, start to see people making breakthrough in the medical field, industrial, in the healthcare, a lot of those. So my question would be very similar to John, that what you are seeing after so many years of promoting the technology, where things are and what are the bottlenecks that actually prevented it from actually quickly have a moonshot. Please feel free to share your view. And I think it can be a great opportunity to really drill down to the detail of technology and see if it's coming from the regulatory, just related to the last panel discussion, or there are still a lot of things that to be solved before we can actually embrace this technology. Who want to volunteer? Go ahead.
Great. Yeah, I can jump in first. So I think there are 2 points. So the first point is about technology itself. So basically, with the equipment, the 3D printer, that will be itself as a constraint, also a bottleneck. But with a lot of more different types of 3D printers and also different new technology coming into the market, so that might solve the problem. So I think the first one is the technology, the 3D printer itself. And the second one is about materials, because I mean, a lot of things as we're building, it requires a lot of different kinds of materials. So plastic and wood, concrete, so both. So there are a lot of different materials with different attributes, different performance. So with some material innovation, then we can better to create a product that we would like to create, and with the performance we would like to have in the future.
Okay, that sounds good. So you're definitely pointing at the material science and the applications over there in that equipment in order to build it, right?
Right.
So, any point from Joel or Dirk?
Well, I think that, you know, one thing that we have to consider is that a lot of the traditional methods of building are still very valid and still very efficient. Yes. We already have infrastructures there, so it's hard to integrate an entirely new infrastructure that requires entirely new skill sets. But I think the secret here is where can both of these exist and how can we meld both, you know, 3D print technology with traditional manufacturing. It already really is happening anyway. It's more making sure that the markets and the people understand that it's not just a printer. And lastly, one of the biggest in my mind is going from the idea to the physical, and the methodologies we have for getting to designs have been complex and difficult and narrow number of people that can access the technology. So I think those are focuses that also need to be given consideration.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. Indeed, you know, one of the early video that I actually got quite inspired was one of the conference, I think it's a TED talk, that a doctor was presenting that in real time they're printing a real kidney. But after so many years, I still cannot see that come to the market. And then I realized that it's one thing you print material, but it's another thing to realize the structure and all the internal functions inside the organ. And Dirk, you actually point at a really good point. It's much more complicated than what we thought, just lay things on top of each other, right? So there's actually intrinsic things need to be recognized and being wrestled or being solved before we can actually claim that.
Supportive technology. We need supportive technologies.
It's a big thing. So John, please move forward.
Yeah, I just add one sentence. Like, the past 10, 15 years, we are so happy to see a dramatic, rapid development in 3D industry, especially printable material and different printing machine. I think we almost can say, as long as you can design, we can make it. We feel so proud of it. But at the same time, I challenge the first panel and everyone. Is anything we can not make, we have to use 3D printing? Anyone? Name one product you cannot make today. You have to use 3D printing.
Okay, but what about, let me try. If you have infinite number, or not necessarily infinite, but just embedded bolts, they actually cover each other, which in the traditional way, you gotta drill holes and back out, right, for backs, stuff like that. That's my limited number.
It's tricky product, because this is not a product. I'm asking, is any current product?
Current product.
Yeah, you're right. If you have 4 inside ball, 3 stacked together, you can still make it. If you put a 100, almost impossible.
Like a Russian doll.
But 3D can do it. Unfortunately, this is not a
Not
problem.
a value, yep, okay.
But it's true, as I said, the first sentence. We are almost be able to make everything as long as you can design. But at the same time, that's non-product has to be made by 3D printing.
But in many ways, what 3D printing has enabled up to now is the ability to design and rapidly make concepts that transfer into products. And that is one of the key inertias that keeps 3D products and 3D printing moving forward, is the ability to conceive ideas that we couldn't have easily before.
That's a very good point.
100% true.
Okay, so this actually makes me feel really, just 1 second, okay? I feel I really want to jump in. So basically, we're talking about the value proposition of 3D printing technology, ultimately, right? So what Dirk pointed out is not the phase, or it's not the point that we mass produce the final product. It's more of in the design phase that we use. And it seems we have a really good unanimous view of that. Anything else?
Yes. How about you? I'm wearing this jewelry, which is a 3D printed in rose gold, and I'm challenging you not be able to produce it. First of all, it's hard to mount the 3D printing. It's a scrapbook paper, piece of paper. Second of all, not with the price I 3D printed. You probably going through a very difficult process, can make something similar, but not with the price I manufacture it. The second thing is that prototype. You probably are also able to do something similar in the traditional way, but not in the speed and costs I manufactured it.
All right.
So you have to combine.
This is good.
Okay.
Something in there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and I think a lot of, so I come from a designer perspective. So for a lot of furniture or a lot of buildings, they're designing as a really like parametric design. So with a lot of complicated shape and those kind of things. So it's really difficult to manufacture that from a traditional way, or at least it has to be in not as precise as 3D printing. So I think as 3D printing, so if we're using 3D printer to manufacture some complicated shape of design, buildings or furniture, that will be more efficient and with more better outcome.
Then my question is going to be, okay, if we all agree that 3D printing will shine and actually trumpet for in the field of design, then my question is, okay, is there any hope to go mass production, or it's just a dream, right? So I would really like to challenge every one of you that show me or tell me that there's huge hope, not only in the design phase, but also in the real production side, and you can cut costs in the material use, material waste, or even the carbon footprint, or we can save cost, or either in design or manufacturing phase. I mean, you guys have to prove to me. That's indeed one of the questions that I bring to this panel discussion and call for people's clarity from you guys.
That's a question for all of us, not just for everybody in the 3D industry.
So Joe, you want to share?
Anyone want to go first? Mine is not that good.
Please.
Well, I think manufacturing shifting, right? So we're changing from that mass manufacturing to mass customization manufacturing.
Okay.
And so this shift in manufacturing is going to shift the way that we do things. So when we think about manufacturing, it's not all manufacturing has to be at scale like you're talking about, right? Because it's more about the customization and, right, like that's the value of 3D printing. It's not the scale, like scaling huge manufacturing facilities. It's not having to ship the products across the ocean,
Yes.
you know, instead of shipping designs to different locations and customizing them.
It's adding options, not replacing the existing manufacturing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think right now, I think if you were active in the industry, you cannot avoid face the challenge right now, the supply chains headache, you know, everyone I think is fighting that. So very good point. It made the whole production cycle very fast, put it this way, from a long end to end to a short end in a certain way. So it secures your final product delivery date and so on and so forth. And anything else? Anything else? But however, it need to recoup or say it need to justify the cost by putting the infrastructure there, by changing the way people work. Go ahead.
I actually want to continue what you just started, both of you. I do see 3D printing in the future will be huge. And plus, as you said, 3D printing is not the only way to make things. It's just another tool, very good tool, adding to the existing technology. The reason I see is the future of our manufacturing is everything. For the long term, for human society, the best way to make stuff is more efficient in terms of cost, special material, energy, sustainability. I give you one example, maybe we can know a little bit better. 10, 20 years ago, even today, when we make shoes, we make 10,000 same size. We sell the first 3 months, $100 a pair. After 3 months, $50 a pair. 6 months, $10 a pair. Why? Because they cannot sell. They put on sale to customers. Can you imagine how many pair of shoes are not even wear? They're wasted.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Same thing. Across all the product. The past mass production is not efficient. That's why 3D printer or 3D printing customized product will be the future. 20, 30 years down the road, or maybe 50 years down the road, the manufacturer will be produced based on need. You need it, you print it.
Very, very good point, Joe. I think I agree. And also I cannot wait to see that come true, you know.
That's the way I answer. 3D is the future. It's not today.
Well, to follow up a little bit on that, I think that we have a misunderstanding of what things actually cost. Because of mass production and because we use a P&L statement and we amortize our capital and things like that, we look at cost in a narrow way. But what we don't understand, as pointed out, that sometimes cost is spread out over a longer period. It could be, what is the impact to the environment overall, right? It could be, what is the availability, right? Because to mass produce something, there's a timetable. It takes a certain amount of time to get up to speed, to then bring it to a cost level in which the general consumer can afford it. But at the 3D printing level, what we're actually going for, I believe, is that we're looking to figure out how we bring the ability down to a consumer level. How do we bring it down so that we can make, not everything, but we can make a lot of what we need as we need it, so that we're efficient with our supplies, efficient with our materials, and that we have a broad supply of the raw materials from many places, rather than have very specialized manufacturing processes to make things.
Panel discussion with NECINA.
Production to 3D printing and say, well, mass production
It's like
is less
very
expensive.
interesting, but it's been so long that I
Excited
didn't lose
to
interest.
understand the
That makes
overall
sense.
long-term impacts.
Yeah, what's the score?
Versus
It's New England Chinese Information and Networking Association. It's actually extremely interesting in the fact that they're talking about what's to come. And this would be really probably more interesting to you and Michael, because you guys are part of what's going to be the future generation involved in this. What they're talking about is the digital revolution. And how they're personalizing products that benefits individuals, not mass production of mass quantities for everyone. And it's really interesting because you were showing something that they're doing, and one of them is shoes. They are digitalizing shoes that what they can do is record your steps and how you're stepping, your body's using on the shoe, digitalize it for comfort and to maintain like bone joints and everything else. Isn't that amazing? And then it can also be probably updated as you age to accommodate your body, so you're not so hard to use on your body with what you're doing. So that was just an example, but a lot part that Flo invited me on and I'm listening to is there was a whole issue area of housing too. Let me get away from this a little bit. This is in Grandpa Allen. Oh, interesting. I'm just
speakers to talk about that. So I'm thinking, from your perspective, which area you think for a newcomer would be most promising if they want to get into this industry? Which one do you recommend they focus on?
Very good. Actually, you're doing my job now. Appreciate it. But it's indeed my next round of questions. Calling for
individuality of doing
exactly how you guys forward. But before we jump into that topic, sorry about that. I'll have Austin to answer, whatever he prepared.
Absolutely agree with everyone saying that. Your generation a little bit more about the sustainability and also the material waste, because I mean for 3D printing, generally it was compared with traditional construction industry. So I mean in a construction traditional construction industry, so it will sometimes they will move a lot of materials, ship a lot of material on site, and then in a way that they will waste some of the material, but for 3D printing, generally you will eventually save some material. So in terms of the cost and also in terms of the sustainability, it will just reduce some of the both for the cost and sustainability based on the reducing material waste. And also I think the for the supply chain, as we have been discussed as well, supply chain. If we're doing decentralized supply chain, then we don't have to move the product from really remote, maybe a factory from to the project site from all the way. After this kind of decentralized supply chain system, then we can just save the transportation cost, but also reduce the distance. That's it will be just sustainable in transport.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and since our time limit, okay,
Okay, so I have one question. So you just talked about like we will be developing a 3D printing technology, so which is customer feedback. So so when 3D printing technology out, so do you think like there should be more company focus on like one field of 3D printing technology, or they should focus on more field, like they should only focus on the housing products, or like the nation should also spend a lot of money to building like military and spend on NASA, like to build spaceships using this technology.
Yeah, let me rephrase. So it seems like you were suggesting that is there anything that we can actually
adhere to the elements and the environment
to be a little ahead of the game? Is that
Because like sometimes just we have limited financial support, so do you think we should focus on more on people or like the nations?
We were too, and we were
Well, first I think that our future needs to be collaborative across international lines. And I think that 3D printing is important and big enough that this is not one nation's goal to be ahead of someone else. I really believe in sharing. I think that if there is a foundation that could really be important, it would be bringing this education, bringing it to the education level, getting specialities in 3D printing, whether it's house building or architectural design, whether it's in industry, whether it's going to Mars, whether it's household and commercialization, in which you can stop at the store and pick up your 3D printed container with your dinner in it, and then recycle that and pick it up again tomorrow. I think those areas all need some investment, both at a governmental level as well as private finance. And I think private finance finds its own center, it helps get that moving, and then government should pick up from there.
Okay, thank you so much.
And indeed, that's from the question of that. From your
how old is your apartment?
How do you feel that in what area 3D printing already gained a lot of traction so that they've or there are other
yeah, well, there was an energy crisis back then, so yeah. And then the whole thing again with people. Let me see if I can.
We were watching this in town, and they were like, well, if you have a fan in the bathroom, it has to exit somewhere. It can't just sit around or that creates mold. And I looked at my cat, I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine how much mold is in the bathroom.
Yeah, and that's why this passive houses, what I'm telling you guys should really look at, it should be on your side of the earth. It's in Boston. It's what they're, and it's interesting they're talking about this, if this is that, because they have a, like I said, eclectic mixture of people. I mean, it's definitely the Chinese sharing their technology and then the debates, but there's also people here that are all about the technology too in the States. But it's interesting because what they've discussed in both sides agree that the mid-northern, northwest regions are the hardest to convince or to have them conform into the idea of making something better. How interesting is that? Both countries have agreed upon that on the statistic. So you're still in a better place is my point, being over there. You're at least on one side of the continent. Because being in the middle is not good. The upcoming, they mentioned dates. One was obviously Florida's always there in Texas. Texas and Florida are on the top. Boston's really taken a lead, and California. And now they mentioned a couple others, but I didn't catch all of them.
Oh my gosh, we've been looking at houses, and I was like, and I've been watching this TV show called Selling Sunset, and I was like, might as well move to California. Because the houses there are really nice.
Oh my God, are you watching that? I am hooked on that show. Let me ask you this.
I just fast forward through the drama. I just look at the houses.
Yeah, the drama's starting to get to me, to tell you the truth. I'm so about the houses, but I'm also about how they dress. They all dress like ladies. They really do. And I like that. Well, look, my point is, though, it's the respectability that they are showing. And it's like, people, if they weren't looking like ladies, what would they look like? That he had some kind of gig going with a bunch of girls, you know what I mean? Like a pimp thing. So it's a lot about bringing back some of that dress and stuff. Anyways, let me ask you this question real quick. If I lower the volume, the speakers on this, will that mess up the videotaping?
Every time I go out,
No.
to sell my company's product to.
Okay, so the videotape will still.
Traditional
We are
manufacturing process.
through the computer.
Yeah, through the video, because I'm on a live Zoom meeting, so I'm
Oh,
recording.
yeah, it doesn't affect us.
It doesn't if it's on Zoom.
Capability is made, they can do a lot of things. So
Okay.
I want to
Yeah,
say.
I could see close still on, but I bet you she's doing stuff too. I don't know, she's probably taking a lot of this now. So anyways, yeah, the house is Selling Sunset. I'm really hooked on that. Almost like, sort of like I was with, what was that show that we used to watch with Carrie and them? Sex in the City. Yeah, because all those group of girls, you know what though? I can't take the drama of it. It's so petty. It's like, oh my gosh, you know? And now I'm starting to get into the point where like, I like the way they look in the dress, but now when you get the close-up shots, it's like, man, some things don't look right on them. Like their teeth and they're matching their mouth. Like at one point, Mary keeps licking her lips. And you can tell she's almost like she's playing with her teeth, and it's like, oh, she got her teeth put in, and she got new lips. And obviously they had to film. You can't hide. When you get all that, like John had his surgeries and stuff, you have to be putting the makeup and stuff for a while. Well, sort of like when I get my eyes and stuff. You can't put makeup on for like
early 90s, late 90s, has progressed from fairly crude,
I was never problem with that.
more niche precision products.
When
I see this industry going, is I see this blend of traditional machine tools, laser, milling, turning, those types of markets, starting to blend themselves more and more with 3D printing.
But I think that's just the
Partly because
probably more ratings. But the house
because of actual cost, actually reaching 3D print certain things in combination with traditional manufacturing methods. So it'll be a cost
I know, that's what I've been
and I see an entire new industry coming out of this in terms of teaching the next generation we'll call it machinist or engineer to combine technologies to improve things. I think the 3D printing is making incredible inroads. It's just stealth because there's so many industries and places that it touches. You just don't see it every day the way you.
Yeah, well, that's right. I like.
There's not an auto manufacturer
The
on the
other
planet
thing
that is.
think about this. Yeah,
None.
house in California, you
It's
have
not-
you.
We bring the car.
All the
If
upgrades.
you want the car, we're on.
There's no maintenance.
Different scale.
Look at them.
I think-
There is absolutely no maintenance. There's no yard to mow. Most of them don't have shrubs and bushes. They just have a nice pool. And a nice layout for you to sit.
And for the same
on
time,
like,
when we
you know,
do
the
this,
fireplace or whatever thing going, and that's it. And you can open up the whole house, you see screens and all of the windows.
lesson
These are windows in these homes.
don't try to
You
make
feel the
it.
openness of them.
There's no profit machine.
So, yeah, and
Make
like
a
I said,
3D
California's
machine
on
do
board with
one
all
thing
of this stuff. If we're switching gears right now.
Maybe
we're gonna
better.
talk Because this guy.
And try to tell everybody my machine can do this, can do that.
Putting together another.
So that will help 3D machine or
Upgrade
technology
everything, so we can see it, so it's
merge into
here.
one.
And he reached out again,
Thank you, John. This is.
pretty much the world, so he offered
I
us
still remember one.
also the ability to found land that he would give us, his product to build it. So it sounds like all about this, but the high recommend this vehicle right now because, you can't find
They
workers
want the right answer.
via factory removing science labs right now. His research labs because China's on lockdown. So he's in China, but he's also part of the island part of China. I don't know what's going on with all of it. But, and we should get FDA approval by the end of the year. Once we get FDA approval, I think Bailey, And then, but her and I were laughing, I said, well, that's his manufacturing. She says, US people don't want to work. The Chinese people want to work and they can't work, and US people don't want to work and they're work. I know that's a real problem. So, anyways.
And also.
The houses, yeah. Selling Sunset, there's another area that you should look at, there's another TV show similar to Selling Sunset. It was, yeah, okay, so you know it already, yeah, I'm not into that one as much. Only because they look cheap.
More outer technology that will be coming.
Obviously not because of their color.
Definitely be
But they look cheap. I think Selling Sunset, they're
Thank you so much, Austin. I
like
think.
their drama, they pretty much know how to act professional, and they seem to really know their stuff. It's part of that. It's not a matter of them just being on the street because they're beautiful, you know. Yeah, I think, well, did you just start it from the beginning or where are you at? Okay. I just got done with it, so, and where they all get together and talk and all the yeah, well, I did, and I went to following along, so I didn't know it was coming. But once I got done with the panel thing, it reversed back to the very beginning. I must have jumped in at some point and not realizing it. At the very beginning, you should see how they all looked before this show. And Christine's face was fuller. Mary did not trust like she does. So it was interesting how they have changed so much. But I like it for the see, I'm at a part now where you're that new.
And I can see some pictures from some artists.
That Mary likes.
People ask how much we sell.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
That's your style.
Yeah, it's not mine either. I'm like, I honestly like those other ones. I like students. You know which one I do like? I have to say, I like Chriselle, the one that she had.
Well, their homes, they will have more.
The ones that she purchased by herself. I think that's one with hardware.
When they create
yeah. Because I just think, I like where they open up all the doors in the bedroom, outside, living room, and it's really cool. Yeah, to me, I like that other, that one, nice, use that, shoot, Davina, the $75,000 house, they were having a hard time on. I love it, usually when the staircase.
Stupid, I hated that house.
Really, I liked it, so I guess my style is changed a lot. I just like the openness, the cleanness, and that. You still like it to be personalized. Yeah, and personalization. And Mormon cozy is personalization.
You know.
So, but yeah, the one that Mary got made. So that's where I just got done. But I actually am going back.
Before we get to the last.
I just happened to.
I know that.
Heard of this website called Simple Profit?
No.
It talks about taxes and that way you can start writing off your area of work in the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sure.
Not the simple profit, I'll write it down, I have to look it up.
There are still a lot of opportunities in the technology sector and material and also competence and education expansion. So there are a lot of new things coming through.
Hold on.
I think it's really important to kind of keep what we're trying to have in mind and trying to reduce the and solve the pain point in the industry and also to achieve the goals we would like to achieve in the future and also for the social value as well.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Austin. We need a national mission. We need to get behind this and we need to model this after other technologies that move forward. Think of the solar industry, think of the ways that it went through, think of where it is now, California, Massachusetts, leading the country in these ideas about how to bring a sustainable energy.
this can happen in the 3D print world.
Thank you.
I make it easy. Creativity. 3D can help you show your creativity.
Thank you, Joe. I think that's a wonderful post. So thank you so much. And remember to look at of their page, and if you want to outreach to them and form some collaboration, you're definitely welcome. So any more questions? I really want to thank you all of you giving me the opportunity to moderate this, and this is indeed a wonderful discussion. The topic can go on and on, but I hope that it's just the beginning, not the end.
So, but just for fun, I ask everyone, have you ever think, or you ever know what's the best 3D printer?
Who cares? Who cares if it's the best?
The reason I'm asking you this is,
what's your
earlier you mentioned people try to print kidney. Like they did, doesn't work.
Kidney, yeah.
And that's the thing. We have perfect 3D machine. Every individual people, living creature is the best 3D printer. That actually will be the future of 3D printing. The human technology evolved through multiple steps. Maybe the first one is we invent wheel. We can move stuff. We can move stuff heavier than we can carry. Next stage, we move electron. You will have computer. The next step, we move atom. That's how we build ourselves.
All right. Thank you so much. So thank you for
Keegan for your moderating. Thank you, Shane, for moderating first panel. And thank you for all the panelists for your contribution. And thank audience for your participation and all the questions. I have a dream. I want a vacation house printed in one of the style. And maybe I can put it on the Cape Cod beach. Is that affordable or not? Sorry, right? So we need a kind of cost innovation, right? To not replacement, but to add it to what we have. All the regulations, insurance, and all the things will line up to make our dream come true, right? So before we break up for lunch, please come up here in this beautiful NECINA wall here, and we'll take a group picture. After that, we'll break out for getting lunch, and then come back immediately, please. We will go into our annual meeting, the second part of the conference. Thank you so much. Please come up. Don't be shy, come up.
French fries. One, two, three.
本来有手势的，有点手势啊。
Victory. One, two, three.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm sorry.
They make a start. They make a start. That's what happens. If you want to go, well, I want to see the biggest thing on the and I want to walk away.
I know everyone enjoys socializing. Please get your lunch and come back. I appreciate it. Thank you.
What?
不不不，
No.
啊，我把我的手机先给你，这个太短了。
iPhone，
我这应该
还在直播啊？
我也不知道。
这个给大家怎么固定？看一下。
NECINA also offers leadership training, and their mission and goal coincide with our mission and goal. We want to embrace the technology, innovation, and emphasis on the leadership in the community. So it is my gratitude to thank you for your contribution, Greg and Wei, for your support and collaboration and partnership throughout the year. Please come on the stage. Leadership Award. Thank you. So now Lily's gonna have a few words to introduce the next job.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wu Weiwei. You can call me just Weiwei. Thank you, Chair Tom and President Jane, for having me. It's such an honor to be invited. And I'm so happy to see you all, so many old friends and new friends here too. I have heard about NECINA a long time ago when I first come to Boston back in 2007. Unfortunately, I haven't had the honor to work with this great organization until September last year, when we had our first in-person community online academy. I appreciate the NECINA team being our first guest when we reopened our office to the community. We, NECINA, have been helping 70% of Fortune 1000 companies to take care of their employees by running the employee benefits programs for them. You probably noticed that most of you here today are our customers who's using Perks of Work website every day. Giving back is in our DNA. We certainly care about our business performance, but we care more about our employees and the community. Harvard Business Review recognized us as one of the only 3 DDO organizations called deliberately developmental organizations globally in the book Everyone's Culture. Because we build the programs to embrace every employee's personal growth in our daily work. We have devoted ourselves to changing the world by changing workplace culture. Our cutting-edge leadership program have successfully trained top leaders across all industries, including military, education, sports, medicine, nonprofits like you, and the Fortune 1000 companies. We believe we are defining the future workplace, and it has been personally gratifying to be able to pay this forward to the NECINA community. The sense of belonging brings us all together, and the community is the shared common for NECINA and NECINA. I'm so glad we co-hosted and participated in NECINA e-club events in our Boston office. As you can see in the videos, thank you, Claire, to put them together. I met with people from NECINA, Connie, Claire, Ben, John Wang, Scott, John Young, Dara, Tim, Lynn. The list can go on and on. I admire their effort to boost technology development. I admire their passion to help others in the community to grow. I admire their courage to expose their own messages for a better self. I am humbled to be among them who have successful careers and life, but still keep pushing themselves to be better and helping others to be better. That's exactly what we have believed. Better me plus better you equals better us. 我好，你好，大家好. Thank you again for having me. let's keep doing the great things together and make tons of money at the same time. Thank you.
Now, allow me to introduce, it's our honor and privilege to introduce our next president-elect, Scott Lee. Scott is a trained engineer, both in China and the States. He is also an engineer profession that worked in the Fortune 500 companies. And he's a very, very successful entrepreneur. And he has a company now, about 100 million and 400 employees. And he also is a community leader. So Scott's history with NECINA dated back when he was an engineer in the US. So a few years ago, when he came back to the States to expand his company in the States, he immediately jumped in. And he really immersed himself in activities and the daily life of NECINA. So I'm proud for Scott, for our next president. So please welcome him with his remarks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Carla, for the last year wrap up, and also thanks to the NECINA board. Thanks, Wei for next jump. He made a tremendous support last year when COVID. So it's a season of commencement, actually, right? So we are really honored to have everyone here to celebrate. We are actually looking forward to celebrate the past. So it's a perfect year of May. It's a beautiful day. So I really want to, since I joined NECINA 20 years ago, it's a NECINA actually in California. So that's my really personal vote to NECINA. It's kind of a destiny. I spent 10 years in California, 10 years in Shanghai, come back here, settle down in Boston. So I'm really honored to join NECINA again, and also see a lot of old friends, new friends. This is one of the oldest nonprofit Chinese American technical engineer association. Yeah, as I said, I joined NECINA California in 2000, where I really a Silicon Valley engineer working in the photonics industry. And today, I really want to share about my personal view of my life, my company, for the future community here. So I'm kind of a follow the three quotes from the famous, first of all is the begin with the end in mind, right? It's like Stephen Covey, right? 7 Effective Network. So basically, today is a good day. I only prepare 20 pages or 21st pages. This is May 21st. So this is the little bit quick wrap up for my thinking today. Hopefully, if anyone raise questions, I really want to share my personal view of my journey from west to east, from California to Boston. It's a long journey. 20 years actually, time flies, and I switch back and forth. So this is my summary. So basically, I want to go back from my first landing to the United States. It's in 1997. I was a recent engineer. My first stop is Boston. Then 2 years later, I joined UCF for my PhD in Orlando. It's the University of Central Florida. I spent 1 year full-time and 1 year half-time for my PhD program. But basically, I dropped out because I got an offer from Silicon Valley. It's a startup company called Opening. So today is belong to Monex. And I got an option like goes on 3 million on paper. It actually did. So I quit my full-time in Orlando, fly to San Jose in year 2000, in May, this beautiful May. 5 months later, actually, the company went to public, it's an IPO. So I did worth 3 million on paper. It's such a young engineer, 2 years from Shanghai, and start of high-tech startups in Silicon Valley. It's a really good, great experience. It's the bubble time, it's the telecom crash. Right, 1 year, 2 years later, everything is gone. That's the year I joined NECINA. So I know Vicky Young at that time. I think it's quite a, I think it should be similar, founded with NECINA here at 96. But because of the bubble, the crash, I think it's a lot of dynamics there in Silicon Valley. I'm very happy, to join this community, get to know everyone, listen to a lot of the talks like today we did for the 3D printing. It's I really appreciate the community scene to help the young people get into the career path, maybe have a great idea, get some members and coach during the conference. But the truth is, I don't know how we're NECINA here in Boston. So in 2007, I recommend, so I joined a company in Detroit. I sent back to Shanghai as a small office, kind of selling the stuff from the US. It's a manufacturing company, doing the photonics, it's a cutting business. So anyway, I moved back to Shanghai, reconnect to my girlfriend next door. And in 2008, I got married. So this is a kind of, I really want to see this world, beginning with the end in mind. So I take 10 years, spent in the United States, wandering, pondering, and I married the girl next door to me. I know her 15 years ago. So that's why really I think of my career, my personal life, and my thinking, even down the years, maybe another 20 years, we see a lot of new generations. So I want to really share to rejoin NECINA 5 years ago when I moved back to Boston. So that's a great experience. See myself, more self-awareness, see more young people join the community, contribute, give and take. So this is my basic journey for myself. Looks like I wasted about 10 years sitting in the US and married late. My son is here, he's 10 years old. So thanks to everyone, thanks to all the people I know in the past. So next one, I've got to be honest to, sorry. So I want to give you a summary of my LinkedIn journey myself. So I have a physics background, got 2 master's degree, all in WE field. So I spent a lot of time in automation and photonics. So this is I think it's one of the big trends is bringing the manufacturing back to States. So personally, I think I see a lot of entrepreneurs, technologists, and coming back and forth. So that's the value probably NECINA as a Chinese American community. We can really leverage what we learned in China. Also, we learned the US way, educated here. And today I know one of our guest panelists got a degree from Tsinghua and get involved a lot of MBA or financial side. So that's really the beauty of it's a melting pot of the United States. So I try my best to help whatever younger than me or even older one and kind of to transform what I learned to the next generations. And as you're learning as well, I enjoy it. So my plan for next is to bring kind of a West Coast, East Coast, since I really know a little bit of Silicon Valley. I spent 5 years here, and I know a lot of New England way of doing startups or a little bit social stuff. So this is my, just got a WeChat for, so I give these two pictures. I myself, I didn't really realize in Silicon Valley they call the 101, here is the 128, right? It's very familiar, but they are really two stack, right? They got the Stanford here is MIT. So these are all the brains of the high-tech business. And also, we also spend a lot of time in Shanghai, in China. So a lot of the trainees from US also start great ideas, start a company, get fundraising, but it's a capital driven or it's IP driven. So my colleagues, but now is the time is really big change. Myself, after 2 months, right? We see a lot of challenges in manufacturing side, also the high tech, even clean tech, right? So it's so many industries are really rethinking about this is kind of a deglobalization or decoupling or decentralized or the post-COVID era. That's why I think it's the this is the first time we are actually in person to looking forward what are we gonna do for global plus local is a combined word. So this is the main idea I'm trying to present as a team member in our future sponsors get involved with the NECINA. So I really want to bring two people and across the track actually it's really studying so I try to put this as a 4x4, and I try to build another 2 committee, which is one is for the technology track, the other one is for the entrepreneur track. So I need a lot of you guys, your friends, or someone you know, really bring to NECINA. We can cook something good for you. Like we said, better you, better us, better me, right? Better together. So this is the way I think I will really spend the next 12 months to, as a president of NECINA, trying to attract more younger people, bring to the board, to the new project, and do it a harmonic way, right, or comfortable way. So that's why I really, it's not a 4+4, it's a 4 times 4. So we have all the project entrepreneurs, for sure it's IP driven, technology driven project. But also we still want to talk about technology. So we like to see AI changing everything. So I call the AI ABC, right? A is AI, B is blockchain, C is cloud computing. This is going to be a transforming tool for every industry, every section, either it's pharmaceutical or automation, manufacturing section, or aerospace, medical devices. So I think I try to bring this one as a dedicated track from the technology-wise. So ABC, I will try to have more experts. So I get Dr. Bogu. He actually is an automation and photonics expert. He probably went to States in 1982, got a PhD from Caltech. He really get involved with a lot of SPI fellow or SF fellow activities. So I really want Dr. Bo to be one of the chair, but we need a lot of committee members to help to think about sensing NECINA or the England way to help our community here. The second one is the go back, the entrepreneur track. So as the Dr. Lim team. So Tian is really I think is perfect guy to help us to try this entrepreneur committee. So we will have more entrepreneurs join to the committee. This is the way I really get involved in the last few years. Or start with Harry and the audience. Also, I sponsor or try to put some silence, e-club silence. So that's the 4x4 idea. And also I try to get these 2 communities going. And last one, actually, everyone is a connector. We are new connection, new ideas. So that's my basic ideas to try to emphasize on the technology, also the entrepreneurship. That's the 2 mission for NECINA. Next. This is the picture I visit MathLab, the MathWorks, the company in Massachusetts, in New England. That's the painting on the wall. See a lot of electronic components connecting each other. So that's really amazing to me, impressed me quite a lot. I have a classmate working at MathLab for 25 years. So that's a chance I see this story. The guy called Lerondo Julian. So that's the called the Blooming Band. And I think it's a good idea to connecting the minds together. Everyone has an idea. But if we really treat US as a melting pot, so this is the way bring the technology elements, electronic stuff, make a new brain, AI, blockchain, and cloud computing, right? And disruptive sensing. So that's the other book I just read recently called Connecting the Dots. That's why I really like this words by John Chambers. He worked for IBM and also the Cisco. So that's a really successful story. He's really trying to convince people have different kinds of ideas, right? Perspective or technology understanding. But if we can be able to connect all those dots together, that's a big power of focus or driving whatever new ideas or myself learn from mistakes. So that's the way I try to get started. Next. So that's why I mentioned about the ABC stuff, right? AI, blockchain, and IoT, cloud computing. So we will still keep the technology conference. I would call it technology conference, also a trend conference. There's one item I don't really myself know much about it. It's called the NECINA Lab. I try to put an apprenticeship on this one. I hope eventually we will have some company sponsors, some hands-on stuff for the new yes program students, or even for the new engineers. So that's the 4 track I try to push forward in next 12 months. ABC, SIG. SIG means special interest group. There may be something, medical device or pharmaceutical stuff. But we still keep the annual conference going, like today. We may have a half-year one. We have a great guy. We can build a separate dedicated conference for this topic. Next. Yeah, again, the community is really matters. So that's something I don't exaggerate. It's something, if you really spend more time in the community, this community will be more powerful. It also help all the members. You don't need to go for all the events, but this is something like you go to the church, you share the same philosophy, same vision. That's the really beauty of NECINA, being 26 years community. So that's with good track record. We are really care about technology, we care about entrepreneurship. Next. So innovation really has a social impact. So we all know Steve Jobs, we all know Elon Musk, right? And Edison. So those are the dream. We were not that big, but everyone here makes some kind of an impact in macro level. They are really big guys, but I think the people, everyone is a hero, right? You can affect your family, affect the company you work for, or you're in charge of a small group of 10. That's the innovations in the detail. Next. Next one is the Closely Kaizen. This is a very famous book as well, right? It's talking about the marketing. So all the engineering ideas, if you really want to make a company, a startup, be a success. So it's an entrepreneurial track. And that's the book. Everyone can get a look. It's a pretty old one, very traditional one. And so this is the idea I want to share. This is the life cycle of entrepreneurship. You start from an idea, you make the prototype, you get some funding, and then you need to scale up. So that's the 4 steps for the startup company or going to be established one. So inspire, influence, and innovation. Later you got the impact. So that's exactly matched to the 4 groups and trying to push. We have a years program. It's for younger college students or even high school students. They are just fresh. You know, we want to promote big, bold ideas, right? Especially for the younger generations. And later you have to get to the career builder. You need to build your career, be an expert in one particular section. As we keep going in a career conference, development conference, we will have more experts or HR, expert to give idea, share a lot of insights to help the young engineers. And later we really have some startup company showcase. So we call the entrepreneur workshop. So that's the 6. NECINA did it already. So that's the 610 NEW. So I call the NECINA entrepreneur workshop. So the last one is the entrepreneur club. So I still keep the E club, but we put the N in the first. So I will put that's called the NE club. So we will do a little bit informal silent or small club gathering. So that's the 4 steps. Hopefully all the members of the E club can make some kind of a local impact. We giving back or we help the local entrepreneurs to have more communication, help each other. Next. That's the 4x4. I have this one truck from the 4. So that's the 4 items. So yeah, again, next one is, I think that all the items are connected. So it's connecting the dots, cross the chasm, and it's inner loop and the outer loop. So the 4x4, and we have the 2 committee to share the technology track and the entrepreneur track. You can get a private equity funding guy or attorney or accountants to join to give more advice for free, right? So we were, at least we create some kind of an early stage coach type of team willing to share, also to get. You may get your best partner by attending one of the NECINA conference, or you may hire a top Google engineer, he just joined one of our conference. So that's the kind of a win-win situation for us to bring all the bands together. Next. Yeah, so this is the the reset and rebuild. Like my small factory in Shanghai, we were shut down for 2 months. So we really want to think about the decentralized way of having people work from home or some kind of, don't put everyone in Shanghai. You may have more guys in Wuhan, in Silicon Valley, in Boston. So decentralized communities probably is also the next wave, like the Web3 technology, like everyone is decentralized. Today, the Facebook, WeChat, they're so huge, giant companies controlling everyone. So we will see. I mean, we always need to, this is the time of the change, and we are teaming up together to have more ideas. Next. Yeah, that's the word I heard a lot, VUCA. So hopefully we can stay in VUCA, share the vision, and to go to the next level. Next. So my conclusion, also commencement. So kind of a beginning is the end in mind. So we hopefully have everyone here have something to rethink about it and how to contribute to NECINA and how previous president, board members to help NECINA together, bring the entrepreneurs and the technologists together for the future. I forget that one is the time. So there's a mountain, then there's no mountains, and it is. So we were really, myself is an engineer in nature. We don't change. once you got so big company to manage, you basically is really enjoy the innovations, the technology steps, also coach the team to become more leadership. So we also attend some of the extra leadership program myself. And I learned a lot, and I hope to bring my team as well, or even NECINA officers to attend some of the leadership program. Next. Yeah, so I thank NECINA, SINA at the year 2000, and we try to have a team to work a sustainable, work longer, faster, right? That's almost next one. So last one is we will really try to invite more young generations, young engineers to join NECINA as a volunteer, as a member. And if you have a great idea, we can do something for you, just speak up. So I hope I'd like to have this last page, 21st. So now it's the 2022. So again, thank everyone. So I will hope to see whatever, wherever, forever, to help the community growth and better you, better us, and better everyone. Thank you.
We all looking forward for a successful year with a lot of activities, a lot of exciting things, and we will resume to our, like I said, this year is a transition year, and next year we'll resume everything in more, like a new norm. So with that, we are going to the last portion of the program, which is the most important, is award ceremony. So please, I invite all the board members to come up to the stage and to recognize all the volunteers of this year. Come up. And Jackie? So, all these individuals listed here, they spend countless hours and the work to put many programs together. Regardless, it's a post, it's a outreach, it's a sending a message. Many little things happen these years, and all the individuals here contribute different programs and a different leadership. So there's no order between each individual, but all of them contributed tremendous to make everything happen here. So come on stage. Maggie, Laura Wong, Hannah too. Please come on stage. All right. Next, Hannah. Hannah is the second generation of our board member, Zheng Ru's daughter. So she is a college student and she has graduated from YES program, and this year she's almost leading the YES program. So talk about the legacy and the continuation. So thank you so much. Maggie, a beautiful lady. She's gone and she's still there. So the lady that walking today and they give you all the directions where you go, that's her. Not there? Okay, all right. No problem. I'll catch up her later. So they are most innovative, creative. So I will offer them the Creative Award. So here, thank you so much. Congratulations. Yes, most students at NECINA graduated today, so they are very excited. Student has something titled shown here, but I'm sure I will deliver the award to her. All right. So all the marketing cool gadgets doesn't happen, mysteriously, right? So there's one individual that spent countless hours and to make sure all these things happen. So Ling, come on stage. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Talking about leadership, this is so crucial. It embedded in every day, every moment of life. It's how you do it and how you lead by example. That this is daily life, and we have two distinguished leadership that makes things happen in the background and lead us in many different ways. Shania had something this morning. You already witnessed that he's moderating the panel. And Scott Lee is president-elect. Come on, Scott Lee, come on up. Everyone told me that I share a lot. Today's program runs smoothly, and we all come together. All these, activities, going out for picnics. We had a lot of short video programs, put it up, and this was created and supported and done by one individual, Jackie. Yeah, she meant a lot to me, and she carries a legacy of NECINA. She passed a lot of good batons to us that making sure that this organization runs smoothly. So a lot of them don't know me. I only came to the New England area not too long ago that I joined the organization only for a few years. So she is a backbone person that helped us to get through this year, make everything happen. So Jackie, come out.
Well, we actually have a very surprising award, and this award is reserved for president. And many of us here have been through similar experience. It's virtually impossible without strong leadership to make the organization continue its journey. So we're so indebted to your service, your humbleness. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you. Look forward in WeChat, YouTube, different channels. We have Instagram. So please follow us throughout the year. We'll see you in the community. Thank you.